Have you ever seen a beautiful historic structure completely demolished by machinery? It's a sight to see. Stay tuned here. You're going to see one of the great historical buildings in Hamilton, Montana be destroyed by huge machinery. Stay tuned. Here we go. So this is the location. It's the old Cherry Cannery, and it was a major part of Hamilton. I was happy to list it for an investor about 2 years ago, give or take, and roughly last year, at the end of the year, in December, maybe in January, we sold the structure. Here's some pictures of it before they started the demolition. There was a retail store just north of the cannery, and it was demoed for parking for the concept of a distillery as an anchor for a retail area. This building was originally built in 1911. So now it was bought by Stockman Bank, and Stockman Bank will build an incredible edifice here on First Street in Hamilton, Montana. And to give you an example of what Stockman Bank properties look like, here's just a few examples here in various parts of the state. They're in major towns like Billings and Missoula. So this is what we can expect to see here, but we're going to see some of this demolition going on here. The building is coming down on its own, and of course you can see over here you've got the exit building which sits right up against it. So it'll be interesting to see if they're able to pull this building down without causing any damage over there. They're being very vigilant out here watching this. We'll take a few minutes and take a look and see what this looks like as they're taking it down, and maybe give you some time lapse over the next day or so as they clean up this site here in Hamilton, Montana. I'm Craig Cyphers with the Montana Real Estate Channel, brought to you by Cyphers Family Real Estate. If you want to know more about real estate all over Western Montana, all the information is in the description below. Talk to you later. What is the location where the guys are standing right over here is where that retail store was that was demoed for the parking for the distillery in a redevelopment concept by the investor that sold the project to Stockman Bank. And now we're traveling south on First Street, and you can see this looks like a complete tornado went through here. They just started this demolition this morning, and it appears that they're actually going to get done with the majority of the demolition by this afternoon. So you can see that there's the exit building on the corner. We've got the guys standing over here on First Street on the east side of the demolition. Make sure that nothing happens over there. You know, there are buildings that simply occupy a piece of ground, and then there are buildings that tell the story of a community, and that one of those buildings is the historic Bitterroot Cherry Cannery, also known for many years as the Parker Cannery. To understand its significance, you have to go back nearly a century to a time when commercial fruit production was an important part of the life in the Bitterroot Valley. By the 1920s, orchards throughout the valley were producing cherries and other fruit on a commercial scale, and the Parker Cannery played an important role in getting that fruit from the Bitterroot Valley to markets far beyond Montana. Well, that was a bit of a close call. This is just like a big T-Rex out there pulling this building down. So we'll tell a little more history about the Parker Cannery as we go along here. A newspaper article from July of 1927 gives us a remarkable glimpse into just how significant the operation had become. That summer, the cannery was preparing for another large Bitterroot cherry crop and had expanded the plant to nearly twice its previous capacity, the size it is today. The cannery processed several varieties of cherries, beginning with early Richmonds and followed by Montgomery and English Morello cherries. And this wasn't a small operation. So here we are at the parking lot of the exit office, and it's going to get real interesting here. This is the last part of the demolition of the walls. Just this little southern part here, a little bit on the west side, and a little bit off First Street to the east. And this, as I mentioned, was not a small local operation. A newspaper reported that in a single year, the Parker Cannery shipped 12 railroad carloads of product out of Hamilton. Think about that for a moment. Nearly a century ago, fruit grown here in the Bitterroot Valley was brought into this building, processed and packed and loaded into a railroad car and shipped to markets far beyond Montana. The cannery belonged to the remarkable period of Bitterroot history when commercial fruit production was a major part of the valley's economy. By 1920, hundreds of thousands of fruit trees covered thousands of acres of the Bitterroot, and railroad cars filled with apples and cherries regularly left the valley. Through much of that history, the Parker family was connected to this cannery. It wasn't simply an old industrial building. It was a family business that provided jobs, supported local agriculture, and became a part of the fabric of Hamilton. And now we're watching it disappear. But as one family legacy leaves this corner, another is surviving. Stockman Bank purchased this property and will build a major new banking facility here, one that will dramatically change the appearance of this important entrance to downtown Hamilton. There's an appropriate connection between the two. Stockman Bank began in Miles City in 1953 and grew from deep roots in Montana agriculture, ranching, and small business. The Coffey family, itself a Montana ranching family, has played a central role in building Stockman into what it is today, one of the 5 largest banks in Montana by deposits and one of the state's most significant homegrown financial institutions. So there's a certain symmetry to what's happening on this ground. The Cherry Cannery represented an economy built around agriculture, local families, and Montana enterprise. Stockman Bank was built on many of those same things. Different generations, different businesses, but remarkable similar roots. Progress changes the places where we live, and sometimes we don't realize how much history is contained inside familiar old walls until the excavators arrive and those walls begin coming down. For generations, the Parker Cherry Cannery has simply been part of Hamilton. Soon, this corner will begin an entirely new chapter, but before it does, perhaps it's worth stopping for just a moment to say goodbye to a business, a family legacy, a piece of Bitterroot history. And old friend, goodbye, Parker Cherry Cannery, and thanks for being a part of Hamilton. Well, we hope you enjoyed this demolition of the old Parker Cherry Cannery here in Hamilton, Montana. I can assure you that what Stockman Bank will do here will be beautiful for many, many, many decades, and will be a wonderful addition to the town of Hamilton. If you like this content, please consider subscribing to the Montana Real Estate channel. We talk about real estate. We also talk about culture, lifestyle, all things Montana. And all the information in order to get a hold of us, of course, is in the description down below. And we would love to be a resource for you. We have 9 offices throughout the state of Montana in various locations associated with Exit Realty Montana, and of course we've got the exit offices are still standing right there in Hamilton, and today to the north it's an empty lot, but soon there will be a large Stockman facility. And so come see us and visit us and see the progress that Stockman is making in Hamilton.